You dudes, Oren here. Instead of doing another Fridge Magnet Power Rankings, I wanted to try to do something a little different just to shake things up because I kind of get tired of hearing myself saying pretty much the same things and the same information every week. But don't worry, at the end of this video, you'll know what my power rankings are. But instead, I wanted to look at seven mid-ish teams that I think are interesting and just kind of talk about them a little bit. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into that. The first team I kind of want to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers. And they just got done getting defeated in a shootout against the Detroit Lions, but now they're 4-5, and they were in second place, but they dropped to third place now, apparently, since the Raiders took over second place. But their offense in terms of scoring points is average is 26.6, which ranks seventh in the NFL, while their defense given up an average points worth of 23.9, which ranks 24th. And Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack are two of the players that impress me the most. Like Keenan Allen, it always seems like he's disrupting something in terms of if he's getting a sack or stuffing the run somewhere in the line, and or even like running backwards to try to tackle a wide receiver that's the secondary is struggling to get down. And then, Keenan Allen's just somebody who I was just getting nightmares about. Like Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks, definitely. But, Keenan Allen was he proved to be a worthy wide receiver there, and he's definitely somebody to watch out for. And then, their head coach of the Chargers is Brandon Staley for now, but it seems like a lot of people are talking about wanting to fire him and move on. Defensive-minded type of coach who doesn't seem to be getting the job done. And not to mention they have their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, who was with the Dallas Cowboys last year with them, and then he went over to San Diego. So who I thought the Cowboys had a pretty good offense, but when you're not, I guess, achieving the bar you set very high, then somebody's got to take the fall and you got to move on. So, but yeah, I think the Chargers are still an interesting team. There you go. You can see them there. And then they're fun to watch. Definitely. They can put up points. They have some name recognition with like Herbert and those people. And for the longest time when they were in San Diego, they were like the one team like in the background that nobody ever seemed like they ever talked about. And I kind of felt bad for them. So I kind of rooted for them as my second favorite team for a while. So back when they had Phillip Rivers, who also got traded up into the there from being from the Giants originally in the draft because Eli Manning was being such a baby and threatened to not play for the Chargers if he was drafted for them. So they drafted him and then traded him for the Chargers drafted quarterback, or the Giants drafted quarterback, and so on and so forth. But that was ancient history. So anyways, the second team I want to talk about, the Houston Texans. They have a new head coach as they rebuild, DeMeco Ryans, whose defensive-minded person came from the 49ers. And I think whatever he's doing a good enough job as that team continues to improve with pieces like Will Anderson Jr., as well as Blake Cashman, who's seems to be a really pretty good lineman as far as I can tell on PFF. But who's everybody talking about? Somebody who I held in high regard and scouted last season while they were in college, not to mention watched a little bit from the season before that, being CJ Stroud, even though he does play for Ohio State, which is a team that I have not ever been seen rooting for. He's objectively as a quarterback, he's won my respect because he's, of all the quarterback prospects in the draft last year, he was the best at downfield passing. And if the Lion, I remember thinking for the Detroit Lions, if they wanted to try to draft a quarterback to replace Jared Goff eventually, not that they would now, they already drafted Hendon Hooker, I guess, for that idea now. But I thought Stroud would be the guy for that reason because he's good at passing downfield. He seemed like a really tough competitor playing for big games, and he is a mobile quarterback, but chooses not to be unless he has to, which I think is pretty wise. So, and I'm happy to see CJ Stroud having the success that he's having, because I truly believe that he deserves it. So, going from one quarterback I admired in the draft from previous years to another one here in a second. The third team I want to talk about, the Washington Commanders. And I think they're a relatively fun team to watch. They're a team that I wouldn't be surprised if one of the Lions coordinators, such as AG, wound up going over there. I do know Ben Johnson has during the Senior Bowl one of the years, he bonded a little bit with Sam Howell, since they both attended University of North Carolina. So, but anyways, the Commanders. By the way, I mentioned the Chargers were 4-5. The Houston Texans were 5-4. The Washington Commanders now are 4-6. Oh boy, I forgot to mention Bear with me for a second. I forgot to mention the Texans' statistics. Our offense is 24.1, which ranks 10th, and then their defense is 21.3, which ranks 16th. And yeah, just to give you that perspective there. Anyways, the Washington Commanders, their offense is 21.7, which ranks 17th, while their defense, in terms of scoring points average, is 27.4, which is 31st, second to last. So the Commanders could definitely use some improvement on defense wherever they can find it, even though they traded away two of their defensive linemen, Chase, or their edge rushers, Chase Young and Sweat, after getting new ownership in the offseason. So, but pieces like Sam Howell are there to stick around, as well as wide receiver Jahan Dotson. Both of them are really great competitors, and I'm happy every time they make a clutch throw in a key moment in the game. And it seems like they do that several times this year, as far as I can tell. And then on the defense, Kendall Fuller, a great cornerback, great piece to build around. So, and you got to think, if the Commanders have new ownership and they're trying to rebuild and stuff, their head coach Ron Rivera, and then Eric Bieniemy, not Eric the Enemy, but Eric Bieniemy, who just came over from the Chiefs, if I know that right. They're probably on the hot seat, just because, not because it's their fault, but because it's the new higher ups wanting to do their own thing. But both of them are good coaches and good at what they do. But it's an unfortunate situation, so you got to kind of think, maybe you want to bring in someone great at offensive schemes to complement what Howell and Dotson and those people are capable of, or maybe you want to bring somebody who has a fresh mind for defense to help improve the second to last scoring defense. So whatever the Commanders decide to do, it'll be interesting nonetheless. Anyways, the fourth team I want to talk about, that's mid, which I think is interesting. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Kings at being at least mid for the last several seasons. They will never go below 500 under Mike Tomlin's rule as well. And Mike Tomlin, who's a guy who sticks by the things that he wants, because of that reason, he will never fire Matt Canada, who seems like all I ever hear about is everybody talking about wanting to fire Matt Canada because they think his schemes aren't that great, and the Steelers could be scoring more than what they are. But you know what? As you've heard about the Steelers fans recently, don't question the bullshit and let the bullshit get the win with whatever it is they do. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what the Steelers are. Their offense average points is ranked 17.3, which ranks 26th, while the defense ranks an average of 20.2 points, which ranks 12th. So the defense is definitely on fire, doing pretty well in a lot of the games, and the offense definitely needs to improve, and it has, I think, marginally in recent games. And it's interesting because like Mike Tomlin will say, "Yep, changes are going to be coming," but really it's just like, okay, on Wednesday, instead of not wearing pads, we're going to wear pads during this walkthrough, and that's the change, and somehow it works. Or moving Matt Canada Canada from the press box down to the sidelines, and that seems to work for them too. So, once again, don't question the bullshit. So, they are in second place in arguably the most competitive division in football, the AFC North. So, they're right in the thick of things. So we'll see how things play out there. And then, I just want to mention they have TJ Watts, who's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion, as well as Alex Highsmith, who's just killing it. So they may arguably have the best edge rusher duo in the whole league. Maybe the 49ers or somebody have something to say about that, but just my opinion there. So the fifth team I want to talk about, the Cincinnati Bengals. So Zach Taylor is their head coach. Honestly, don't know much about him, but I feel obligated to mention that. Their offense is 20.2 in terms of average points, which ranks 20th. And then defense is 21.3, which ranked tied for 16th there. And then and obviously they have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, great quarterback, great wide receiver, on their own, as well as a duo. And then arguably the best wide receiving core in the NFL. And then on their defense, they have Trey Hendrickson. And then at times they've had really good defenses. So the last 2 seasons, they get really hot in the second half, and then they become a pain in the butt in the playoffs and making the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And then this is going to be my hot take. Like, everybody says the Bengals are always like the most dangerous team when they get the momentum and they're going to come back in the second half. But honestly, I don't see it. I believe the Bengals are overrated. And I mean, prove me wrong. I know they won a couple of impressive games recently, like against Buffalo and that sort of thing. They did just lose to the Texans, but they got off to a really bad start this year. And, as far as I can tell, the offensive line and those things are not really impressive. And other than Trey Hendrickson, who do you have on defense that really makes you stand out as a competitor, And I doubt that they'll make the playoffs at this point, given the level of competition in the AFC as well as the AFC North. So, they're definitely one of the teams that everybody talks about as a top team, but I think this year they're just going to wind up being mid, even though they'll have flashes of excellent. And then we'll all talk about all these Bengals are really going to do something, but I just don't see it until I'm proven wrong. So I guess we'll see. And the sixth team I'd like to talk about, the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills are somebody who should have been one of the more elite teams, the top 10 teams, but they've been underperforming so much that they are now in the mid category and in this category that I'm doing on my list. I forgot to mention the Bengals were 5-4 and the Steelers are 6-3. But the Buffalo Bills right now, after that Monday Night Football defeat against the Denver Broncos, they are 5-5. Their offense has 26.2 average for points, which ranks 8th in the league, while their defense has 18.4 average points, which ranks 5th in the league. And yes, they did just fire their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, today. So, somebody has to take the fall for losing to a team like the Denver Broncos, even though they are starting to get a little momentum, and they're kind of in that same Steelers category where don't question the BS or whatever. And then, you got Sean McDermott, who's done a great job for them over the years, who's also being their defensive coordinator, and you're seeing the results there. It's just, the likes of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, they're doing their thing. They're doing quite well, but you're just not seeing the results that you want to see. And that, wins with them. So they've been in a lot of primetime games, yet it seems like they have to stay afloat to compete against teams like the Jets, for instance, who did beat them on an overtime walk-off punt return earlier in the year. But then when they do win, then they are like a dominant team, like against the Dolphins, shutting down their offense right after a week where they scored 70 points a game. So, Bills I think they still, I think everybody knows they're No, they're underperforming based on what their standards were. Because last season they were the favorites to win the Super Bowl, and now it's just like, what is going on? So. And the last team, and I made them last on purpose because they are a rival of ours now, the Detroit Lions. That is the Minnesota Vikings. They are currently 6-4. Their offense, they rank 23.3 for average offense points, which ranks 12th, while their defense is 20.9, which ranks 14th. And yeah, they had that Kirk Cousins Jefferson duo. Jefferson being arguably the best wide receiver in the league. He went down with an injury. He's been out for a while. He'll probably come back in the near future. And then Kirk Cousins was really performing well for a bit a few weeks ago. Then his season-ending injury took place against the Packers, and then they had trade for Josh Dobbs, who came back. He didn't even start the game against the Falcons, but he, when the other backup quarterback got injured and had to go out, he came in without knowing the play, without knowing anybody's names, and without barely knowing anything, and just kind of did his own thing and ran around and threw wherever he did, and just wound up with a win. And then they were victorious this last week too. And then, yeah, they're starting to make us Lions fans a little bit more nervous because they started off bad, but now they're starting to climb back out. They had an impressive victory over the 49ers on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago. And then that was an attention getter without Jefferson as well. So, and then also they have Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator, and he's never somebody as a coach or coordinator to be taken lightly. So, that's part of it too. And they also have he doesn't get talked about, I feel like, as much. But Daniel Hunter on their defense, he is ranking second, last I checked, in the NFL in sacks. And then he's right up there in forced fumbles too. He has at least 4 of them. So he's definitely a defensive player that you cannot underestimate either. So the Vikings do have pieces, and they could, give the Lions a run for their money. And then, last season they were the NFC North champs, and I guess they thought that they might be that on that level again, even though they're not. But they're starting to get momentum, which is why I think they and the Lions have their 2 games toward as the third last game of the season, and then the last game of the season, and that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Like if they can catch the Lions. No, they will not catch the Lions, because this is the year of the Lions. And yeah. And then real quick, I promised you guys I would tell you what my power rankings are for the top teams, but I wanted this to be about those other teams. So I'll just run down this real quick, because what else can I say about them at this point? Number 1, the Eagles. Number 2, the Ravens. Number 3, the Lions. Number 4, the Chiefs. Number 5, the Cleveland Browns. They deserve it after beating Baltimore like that. They deserve to be in the top 5. Number 6, the 49ers. Number 7, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 8, the Miami Dolphins. Plus, a lot of these teams, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Dolphins were all on buys this week. So how could I talk about them in a regular Fridge Magnet power ranking video? Anyways, number 9, Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, they got blown out by San Francisco. So, and then number 10, the Seattle Seahawks. So those are my power rankings. And then those are the other 7 interesting teams that are kind of medium in the league right now, to kind of keep an eye on. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, go Lions, one pride.